"Daddy, her baby is freezing. A story of winter, kindness, and the family you choose." The wind off Lake Michigan had teeth that night. It came in sideways, the kind of cold that bypassed your coat and went straight for the bone. The last of December's storm had turned the sidewalks into mirrors, and the few people still outside moved with their heads bowed, faces buried in scarves, hurrying toward warmth and light as though both might run out before they arrived. Jake Carter walked with his daughter's hand wrapped in both of his. Lily was 6. She had her mother's eyes, pale gray, the color of sky just before snow, and she was wearing the purple wool hat. Jake had bought 2 sizes too big because it was on clearance and because he knew she would grow into it. She hadn't yet. It kept slipping down over her forehead, and every few steps she'd tip her head back and blow a breath upward to knock it away from her eyes. They had just come from the grocery store on Addison. Jake had worked the afternoon stocking shift, 4 hours, $12 an hour, and he'd bought bread, a can of soup, and a small carton of apple juice for Lily's lunch. He'd counted out the bills at the register and had 43 cents left in his pocket when the cashier handed him the bag. He was not ashamed of this. He told himself he was not ashamed. The bus stop was half a block ahead. Beyond it, the orange glow of a coffee shop sign cut through the dark, and Jake was already calculating they would not stop. They could not stop. They would ride the 22 home, and he would heat the soup on the small gas burner, and Lily would fall asleep before 8 o'clock like she always did when the cold wore her out. That was the plan. Then Lily stopped walking. "Daddy." She said it quietly, not frightened, not excited, just certain, the way children say things when they have already decided that what they are looking at requires an adult's attention. Jake followed her gaze. A woman was sitting on the bench at the bus stop. Young, 23, maybe 24. She was wearing a gray hoodie beneath a thin denim jacket. Both of them soaked dark at the shoulders from the snow. In her arms, pressed tight against her chest, was a baby wrapped in what appeared to be a fleece blanket that had once been cream-colored and was now the color of old paper. The baby's face was the only part visible. Its lips were a pale, frightened blue. The woman was shaking. Not crying, shaking. There were other people at the bus stop, a man in a down parka scrolling his phone, a teenager with earbuds, an older woman pulling a wheeled cart. None of them were looking at her. "Daddy, her baby is freezing." Lily's voice didn't shake when she said it. It was simply a statement of fact that she believed required immediate action, and she looked up at Jake with her slipping purple hat and her mother's eyes and waited for him to agree. Jake looked at his 43 cents. He looked at the woman on the bench. He thought, "I can't. I have nothing. I have a 6-year-old and a grocery bag and 43 cents and a sofa that needs a new spring on the left cushion." Then Lily tightened her hand in his. He stopped thinking. "Hey." Jake crouched down in front of the bench. Up close, the woman's face was sharper than it had looked from across the sidewalk. High cheekbones, dark circles beneath brown eyes, a scab at the corner of her lower lip from where the cold had cracked the skin. "How long have you been out here?" She looked at him with the flat, evaluating stare of someone who had learned to assess strangers quickly and rarely found them worth trusting. "Long enough," she said. "Is the baby okay?" A flicker of something, not quite anger, not quite fear, crossed her face. She shifted the bundle in her arms. "He's fine." The baby made a sound. A thin, high sound, more breath than cry. Lily stepped forward without being asked. She looked at the baby with complete seriousness. "He doesn't sound fine," she said. The woman's jaw tightened. Jake put a hand on Lily's shoulder, not to stop her, just to be beside her. "There's a place on the next block. Cranberries. It's open late. Can I?" He stopped, restarted. "Will you come inside?" "Just to get warm. No strings." She said nothing. "My name is Jake. This is Lily. We just want to help you get warm." Another silence. Then the woman looked down at the baby in her arms, and whatever calculation she'd been running reached its conclusion. "Elise," she said. "My name is Elise." The cafe was nearly empty, a couple in the back corner sharing a slice of pie, a man at the counter with a laptop and a half-drunk coffee. The warmth hit them the moment the door opened. That specific cafe warmth that smells of roasted beans and something sugary just taken out of an oven. Jake guided Elise to a table near the heating vent. He did not count what was in his wallet in front of her. He went to the counter and ordered a large bowl of chicken soup, a chamomile tea, a small carton of whole milk, and a hot chocolate for Lily. The total came to $14.60. He had $16 in his wallet. He'd been saving it for the electric bill. He paid. When he came back to the table, Lily was sitting beside Elise, watching the baby with complete concentration. The baby, his name, they would learn later, was Owen, had been unwrapped from the damp fleece and was now held against Elise's chest with her arms crossed over him, her body heat doing what the blanket could not. "He's warmer," Lily said, with the satisfied certainty of someone who had supervised an improvement. Elise almost smiled. She didn't, quite. But it was there, under the surface, visible the way something warm is visible through a window from the cold. She drank the tea with both hands wrapped around the cup. She sipped the soup. She didn't look at Jake directly for the first several minutes, her eyes moving around the cafe, around the door, checking exits the way people do when they've learned that safety is temporary. Jake let her eat. He didn't ask questions. He sipped his water and watched Lily hum quietly to the baby. After a while, without being asked, Elise began to talk. Her boyfriend, Owen's father, had left in September. She'd been working reception at a physical therapy clinic, but she'd missed too many shifts after Owen was born because daycare fell through, and they let her go in November. The shelter she'd been in on Paulina had reached capacity 3 nights ago, and she'd been on a waiting list since. She had a sister in Rockford who'd said she couldn't take them in. She had $30 in a diaper bag and a baby who would need formula by tomorrow morning. She said all of this without dramatics. No tears, no performance. Just the facts of her situation, recited as though she was explaining a route on a map. Here is where I was. Here is where I am. Here is the distance between them. Jake listened. He had sat in a hospital room once and listened to a doctor explain what had happened during the delivery. He knew what it felt like to have the story of your life rewritten in a single sentence. He recognized the particular flatness of a person who has already processed the worst of it and is now simply surviving inside it. "Okay," he said, when she finished. She looked at him. "I have a sofa," he said. "1 bedroom. It's not much, but it's warm, and there's a working heater. You and Owen can have the bedroom. We'll figure out tomorrow in the morning." Elise stared at him. "You don't know me." "No," Jake said. "But it's 12 degrees outside and your son's lips were turning blue." Silence. "He had a condition," Jake said quietly. Not a full sentence, just enough. Elise looked at Lily, who was still humming to Owen, completely absorbed. "Okay," Elise said. One night, the apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that smelled of old carpet and someone's cooking, something with garlic and olive oil that had worked its way into the walls over decades. Jake's unit was number 312, 2 rooms, a bathroom with a dripping faucet, a kitchen the size of a generous closet. He had done what he could with it. There was a plant on the windowsill, a philodendron, because the woman at the hardware store said they were indestructible, and he had needed something indestructible. There were drawings Lily had made taped to the refrigerator with magnets from places he'd been in another life. A conference in Austin, a product launch in Seattle. Jake showed Elise the bedroom. It held a full bed, a nightstand with a lamp, a dresser, and a small laundry basket. Clean, organized. He had made the bed this morning with the habit of a man who had learned that small disciplines kept larger things from unraveling. "The bathroom's through there," he said. "There are clean towels under the sink. The heat turns on around 10 and stays on until 6. This building is on a timer. I don't know why. It's been that way since I moved in." Elise stood in the doorway of the bedroom holding Owen, and looked at the bed the way a person looks at something they have been trying not to want. "Thank you," she said. Jake nodded. He had almost turned to go when Elise said, "Why are you doing this?" Actually, he considered the question. He could have given her several answers, all of them true. He gave her the simplest one. "Because Lily asked me to." He left her the bedroom and made up the sofa for himself and Lily with blankets from the closet. Lily fell asleep before he had finished tucking the second blanket in at the edges. She slept with her hat still on. She'd refused to take it off. Jake sat on the floor with his back against the sofa, listening to the heater kick on at 10 o'clock like clockwork. He thought about 18 months ago. He thought about the hospital, and the startup, and the investors, and the long particular silence of a house that had held 3 people, and then, suddenly and permanently, held 2. He thought, "I have nothing to give," he thought. And yet, the storm that arrived the following morning was not polite. It dropped 14 inches in 22 hours and canceled everything. Buses, school, deliveries, plans. The city went quiet in the specific way that only happens in serious snow, the traffic noise disappearing until all you could hear from the apartment windows was wind and the occasional muffled scrape of a shovel. Elise had planned to leave in the morning. Then there was nowhere to go. So they waited the storm out together. The first day was careful. Elise stayed mostly in the bedroom with Owen, coming out to use the kitchen, speaking to Jake with the polite efficiency of someone determined not to take up more space than necessary. Jake worked at his laptop at the kitchen table, doing freelance data analysis, the work that had replaced the executive salary that paid for soup and bus fare and clearance rack hats. Lily had no patience for careful. By the afternoon of the first day, she had installed herself beside Elise on the bedroom floor with a stack of picture books, reading them to Owen with great seriousness, turning each page slowly so he could see the pictures. Owen was 8 weeks old. He could not possibly process the illustrations. Lily did not consider this relevant. "He likes the one with the bear best," she told Jake at dinner. "I can tell by how he looks at it." Elise had glanced up when Lily said this, and for the first time since arriving, she had laughed. It was a small laugh, contained, as though she hadn't been certain she was allowed to. The second day, the tension loosened. Elise helped make breakfast. She found eggs in the back of the refrigerator and made them competently, asking nothing and requiring no instruction. Jake boiled coffee on the small burner. Lily sat at the table and told Owen, who was in Elise's arms, about each ingredient as it was added to the pan, providing a running commentary in the manner of a very serious cooking show. In the afternoon, Elise mentioned almost offhandedly that she had studied graphic design at DePaul before Owen arrived. She had been good at it, she said, in the careful tense of someone describing a person they used to be. "Show me," Jake said. She looked at him. "I have an old laptop I use for client work. It's nothing special. But show me." He pushed it across the table. She opened a browser, navigated to a portfolio she hadn't updated in 14 months, and turned the screen toward him. Jake looked at it for a long moment. "You're good," he said. "I know," she said, and then seemed surprised at herself for saying it. "I mean, no," Jake said. "Don't take it back. You are." The third day, she started applying. After the storm cleared, Elise did not leave. This was not a decision that was made out loud. It was simply a fact that emerged over the following week as the apartment found its shape around 4 people instead of 2. Lily's drawings expanded their territory from the refrigerator to the wall beside the window. Owen's portable crib occupied a corner of the bedroom. A second box of cereal appeared in the cabinet. Someone bought a second dish rack. Elise found freelance work, a local restaurant that needed a menu redesign, a small nonprofit that needed a donor newsletter laid out. The payments were small, the hours unpredictable around Owen's schedule, but they were hers. She tracked every dollar in a notebook with a blue cover. Jake watched her work and recognized something. When his wife had been alive, before the startup had consumed him, He had been the kind of person who showed up, who remembered things, who thought ahead. Somewhere in the grief and the wreckage, he had begun to confuse survival with merely continuing, and he had forgotten what it looked like to want things with intention rather than just endure things with stubbornness. Elise wanted things. Quietly, carefully, without announcing it. But she wanted them. He had forgotten what that looked like from the inside. He started keeping better records of his own freelance billings. He called a former colleague he'd been avoiding. He fixed the broken spring in the sofa cushion. Lily noticed none of this consciously but registered all of it. She slept better. She laughed more easily. She had decided, with the pragmatic certainty of a 6-year-old who has assessed the situation thoroughly, that Owen was her brother and that this was simply how things were now, and she did not see the need to complicate it further. "Can he stay forever?" she asked Jake one evening while he was combing the knots out of her hair before bed. "He lives with his mom," Jake said. "I know," Lily said patiently. "She can stay forever, too." Jake did not answer for a moment. Then he said, "We'll see." Lily accepted this. It was the answer adults gave when they meant yes, but hadn't figured out the logistics. The email came on a Thursday morning in February, 3 weeks after the storm. It was from a man named Douglas Hargrove, managing partner at a venture firm called ArcLight Capital. Douglas had heard, through channels Jake had not thought were still active, that Jake was available, that he was the same Jake Carter who had built Vantage Systems from a 3-person team in a Wicker Park co-working space to a $20 million Series B before everything had gone sideways. That he was, by some accounts, still the sharpest product mind Douglas had encountered in 8 years of funding startups. Douglas wanted to meet. Jake read the email 3 times. He closed the laptop. He made coffee. He opened the laptop again. He had been here before, not this exact invitation, but this feeling, the pull of something large and significant, the particular gravity of an opportunity that lands in your lap when you are in no position to evaluate it clearly. He wrote back and asked for a Thursday afternoon. He did not tell Elise about the email. He told himself this was because it was probably nothing, that one meeting with a venture partner did not constitute a development worth mentioning. He told himself this with some success for approximately 36 hours. Then Elise asked him why he was checking his phone at dinner. He put the phone down. He told her about the email. She looked at him across the table. Owen was asleep in the crib in the other room. Lily was coloring at the far end of the table, conspicuously ignoring the adult conversation while absorbing every word. "That's good," Elise said. "It's a meeting, I know. But it's a good meeting to be having." Jake looked at her. "I don't know if I want to go back to that. I don't know if I can do it the way I was doing it before." "Then do it differently," she said. She said it simply, the way she said most things, without elaborate scaffolding. Just the fact of it, placed on the table. Lily looked up from her coloring. "Daddy's going to a meeting," she announced to no one in particular. "Yes," Jake said. "Will they give him a job?" "Lily," he said. "Will they give you a job?" she asked him directly. "I don't know yet." She considered this with great seriousness and went back to her coloring. "You should wear the blue one," she said. "It makes you look like a grown-up." The offices of ArcLight Capital were on the 41st floor of a building on Wacker. Jake had been in many offices like this, had once had an office not entirely unlike this, and he walked through the glass lobby with the practiced ease of a man reclaiming something he'd put down for a while. Douglas Hargrove was 52, bald, and wore his reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He shook Jake's hand with both of his, the grip of a man who has learned to communicate enthusiasm efficiently. "I've done my research," Douglas said when they sat down. "I know what happened. I know about Caroline." He paused. "I'm sorry about your wife." "I genuinely am." Jake nodded. He had learned to receive condolences offered 18 months late. "Thank you." "I'm not interested in the version of you from before," Douglas said. "I'm interested in the version of you now." what you've been building since. The freelance work, the client list you've maintained, it's not nothing, Jake. You've been doing this on a shoestring, and you've been doing it well. I've been surviving, Jake said. I know. But how you survive tells me what I need to know. Douglas slid a folder across the table. I have a portfolio company, Meridian Health Tech. They're 18 months old. Series A just closed. Product is solid, but the team lacks someone who can translate between the technical side and the market. I need a CEO, someone who has failed and learned from it. Not someone who has only succeeded in small increments. Jake looked at the folder. He did not open it. What's the time commitment? Full-time, salary plus equity, benefits from day one. I have a daughter, Jake said. 6 years old. She's my first priority. That's not negotiable. Douglas didn't hesitate. I have 2 of my own. Meridian's culture is flexible. We built that in. Remote days, reasonable hours. I wouldn't offer you this if I thought it required you to choose. Jake was quiet for a moment. Outside the window, 41 floors down, Lake Michigan was gray and frozen at the edges, enormous and indifferent. I want to read the term sheet, Jake said, and I want to meet the founding team before I agree to anything. Of course, Douglas said. He smiled. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Part 8. What Elise found. She found the folder on the kitchen table on a Friday evening. Jake had left it there when Lily needed help with her bath, intending to move it, forgetting. He came back to find Elise sitting at the table with Owen in her lap, the folder open in front of her, reading. She looked up when he came in. She was not embarrassed. You didn't tell me it was this far along, she said. It's still not decided. Jake. She looked at the term sheet. This is a real offer. I know. She watched him pull out the chair across from her and sit. Owen made a sound, not distress, just the general sound of a small person commenting on existence, and she adjusted her hold on him without looking down. Why are you hesitating? She asked. He looked at the table. At the cereal box and the blue notebook and Lily's purple hat hanging on the back of the chair. At the philodendron on the windowsill. At the drawings on the refrigerator. At the ordinary evidence of a life that had become, quietly and without announcement, something he did not want to disrupt. Because taking this job means things change, he said. Things are already changing, Elise said. She said it gently, but she said it. Owen and we can't stay here indefinitely. That was never the plan. I have 3 clients now. I'm looking at a place on Glenwood. It's small, but it's mine. Or it will be in a month if the next 2 payments come through. The words hit him somewhere he hadn't prepared. I didn't know you were looking, he said. I didn't want to make it a conversation until it was real. She closed the folder. You should take the job, Jake. Not for me. For you. For Lily. You built something real once, and you know how to do it. And you? He asked it, without planning to. She looked at him steadily, not unkindly. With the particular, clear-eyed honesty of someone who has thought this through. I'm going to be okay, she said. That's something I have to be able to say and mean it, and I'm getting there. Owen made another sound. Lily called from the bathroom she needed a towel. Life resumed, but the conversation stayed in the room with them for the rest of the evening. The apartment on Glenwood was on the 2nd floor of a 2-flat. It had 1 bedroom and a room that could serve as a home office if you didn't also need it to be anything else. The previous tenant had left a small bookshelf and a rug with yellow squares. The heating worked and the windows didn't rattle. Jake helped Elise move in on a Saturday in March. He borrowed a cart from the building super and hauled boxes up the stairs. Lily carried Owen's diaper bag as her assigned job and took the responsibility seriously, checking the contents at intervals to ensure nothing had escaped. It took most of the morning. At noon, they sat on the floor of the new apartment eating sandwiches from a deli bag. The room looked very empty, with only a few boxes in the corners. Owen was asleep in the portable crib against the wall. It looks smaller when it's not full of someone else's stuff, Elise said. It'll look different in a week, Jake said. Once there's a plant. She looked at him. A plant. They're indestructible. I can show you which kind. She shook her head slowly, but she was almost smiling. Lily had finished her sandwich and was standing in the center of the empty room, turning slowly, assessing. Owen's room needs a color, she said finally. He doesn't have his own room, Elise said. He's with me, yet, Lily said, with total confidence. She walked to the window and looked out at the street below. I like it, she decided. It has a good window. After they'd eaten, Jake walked the 2 blocks to the hardware store and came back with a small potted philodendron. He set it on Elise's windowsill without ceremony. She looked at it for a moment. Thank you, she said. She said it the way she'd said it the night of the bus stop, not as a courtesy, but as a fact. As something she meant to stand behind. He nodded. There was more to say. Both of them knew it, but the afternoon light was slanting through the good window, and Lily was making Owen laugh a real laugh. The first one any of them had heard from him. A surprising, gleeful sound that filled the empty room completely, and they let the moment hold what it could hold without asking it to do more. Jake started at Meridian Health Tech on the 1st of April. The role was not glamorous in the early months. It was meetings and spreadsheets and the careful, meticulous work of learning a company's culture before trying to move anything within it. He came home at 6, sometimes 6:30. He made dinner. He helped Lily with the worksheets her teacher sent home. He called Douglas once a week and gave honest reports on what was working and what wasn't. He was good at it. Not in the way he'd been good at things before, fast and aggressive, driven by the particular hunger of a man who had something to prove, differently. With patience, with the understanding that systems built under pressure crack where you can't see them. He visited Elise and Owen on Saturday mornings, which had become a habit without being formally declared one. He brought coffee from the place on Clark that Lily had decided was the best because they put the lid on straight. Elise had started taking on larger clients. She was redesigning the website for a chain of physical therapy clinics, which she mentioned with what she did not call irony. Owen had discovered his hands and was deeply suspicious of them. Lily had given him a stuffed bear that she carried to every visit in her backpack and ceremonially presented to him each time, as though he had not seen it before. Owen regarded the bear with the grave attention of a very small scientist. One Saturday in May, they took the kids to the lakefront. The ice was long gone, the water that cold, clear blue it only is in early spring, and the path was full of joggers and dogs and people who had been storing up outdoor time through the whole long winter. Lily ran ahead. Owen rode in the carrier against Elise's chest, looking out at everything with enormous dark eyes. Jake and Elise walked. He said, "I've been thinking about what you said. In February. I said a number of things in February. You said you were getting there." She glanced at him. "I am. I know." He watched Lily run back toward them, gesture urgently at something she'd spotted by the water's edge. A stick, a bird, something requiring immediate adult attention and then sprint away again. "I just wanted to say that I'm glad that you are." Elise looked at him. He had not learned to look away from her the way he had in the beginning. Neither, he'd noticed, had she. "Me too," she said. Lily had found something. She was standing at the railing above the water's edge, holding it up a piece of beach glass, pale green, worn smooth by the lake. "Daddy, look," she shouted, her voice carrying over the wind and the joggers and the enormous indifferent lake. Jake looked. It was a piece of glass. It was small and smooth, and it caught the May light the way things do when the angle is exactly right. He smiled. Lily ran back to show them, both fists pumping, hat finally grown into, finally staying on her head. She held out the glass to Elise first. "For Owen," she said. "For when he's bigger." Elise took it. She held it in her palm, this ordinary piece of worn green glass, and looked at it for a moment with an expression Jake did not try to name. "Thank you, Lily," she said. Lily nodded as though a significant transaction had been completed and went back to the railing to see if there was more. They walked on. The lake opened up to their left, enormous and blue and familiar. The city rose behind them, glass and stone and the particular noise of a spring Saturday, and ahead of them the path stretched on, and the light was bright, and they walked.